I'm Richard Piet. Welcome back to the BC City Connection. This is the official podcast from the city of Battle Creek, City Hall. Thanks for being with us. You can click on other of our episodes. Just go where you get podcasts or maybe the City of Battle Creek's YouTube channel and find us there. You might also be watching us on Access Vision. Thanks for that. Today, Sergeant Corey Champlin joins us from the Battle Creek Police Department to talk about something called protected places. Hello, Sergeant.
Hi, Richard. How are you?
Great. Thanks for this opportunity. So what is protected places?
So Protected Places is a voluntary public-private partnership between the police department and the community members.
What does it do?
So the goal is pretty simple. The idea behind it is we want better information during emergencies to allow a faster and safer response.
Is this for the public or for business? What's the idea here?
So it's for both. It's kind of scalable. You can choose what you want to do or what you want to share. The idea behind it is that you can share your camera locations. You can actually share live feed of your camera system during emergencies if you'd like, or you can just share contact information for your business or property as well, so that if we do have an emergency, we would know who to talk to or reach out to, what if you have cameras, their locations, and then if you do share cameras, we would be able to live stream those cameras for a safer, more efficient response.
Okay, I'm wrapping my head around this. So if you know this in advance, and let's say a business has shared its camera link with you, and you get a call for service at that location, you could immediately stream that video and see what you see.
Yeah, so it would be something to the effect of dispatch could live stream it as they're sending officers to the call. Could also be a officer on station potentially that would be able to have access to that video and be able to give live pertinent information that's real time, because things progress very rapidly out in the field, and that would change our response.
Yeah, you start to see the benefit of this. Now, talk about what happens now without protected places. Let us make a distinction. So you get a call somewhere and you're responding to that, but you really don't know what you're going to.
Yeah, for sure. So the way it works now is someone would call dispatch and they report a crime or whatever they're observing, right? We can come up with something. So say it's a burglary alarm at a residence or a business or something, right? Dispatch would receive a call. They would get provided information from either the caller that's on scene, or it could be an alarm company per se. They would then put that in the computer. They would get on the radio and then get a hold of an officer, dispatch them to the location, given whatever information they have at the time. And the officer is going to respond from their location to the location of the crime or alarm. And that could take several minutes. So I think average response time is generally like 3 to 7 minutes anywhere in the city. So a lot of things can change in that 3 to 7 minutes from the officer getting the call and then proceeding to that location.
And now contrast that. If it's a protected place, how does it help in that 3 to 7 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to start off the same. Dispatch is going to receive a call from the alarm company or a person on scene, but then if they have access to that video, they could pull that up and then see real life time. Yeah, I see an individual that is breaking into this business. This is their description. It's white male wearing a black shirt with tennis shoes and white hat, etc. He's going around to the back of the building. They can give a play-by-play of what they see at the time, so they could give suspect information. If they leave the scene during that response time, they could give a direction of travel for that suspect. And then officers, when they get there, they'd also, if, say, the individual's armed, they would know that information. So you're much more equipped to deal with whatever you arrive to on scene. Whereas if you don't have the protected places, you're just arriving based on the information you were given, which could be very limited at the time. So
yeah, imagine that. You could walk into a situation with none of that information, but with protected places, you already got a leg up here on what to expect.
absolutely.
So what if you don't have cameras? Is this still helpful?
Yeah, so you can still sign up. You can get on the program, sign up with your location, and at least give contact information as like an emergency contact. We look for that all the time, especially for alarms. So if we do come across something, we at least know who to reach out to. Sometimes that changes, especially for businesses. businesses usually might use a manager as a point of contact for an alarm, and sometimes management changes. People get promoted, etc. So it's nice to have current information. So in the event that we do need someone to respond to that location, we know who exactly to reach out to and can get a hold of them effectively.
Do you have to have a security system or an alarm company that you're engaged with for this to work?
You don't. So for the protected places, if you want to do camera integration, you're obviously going to have cameras. That they in getting on the website, and we'll give that to you later in the podcast. But there are several software and hardware that will directly link in, and then there are some that are going to require a safety hub. So depending on what you have, is going to depend on the setup that you're going to have to go through the process of doing to make it work. But then it would allow us to stream that video when necessary to actually respond to a call.
Okay, I want to make sure I understand that. So you can have a business, let's say, but you might not have cameras. This is still helpful. And there's still some kind of video component with that. Did I understand that right?
No. So if you have videos, then we would be able to, of course, with your agreement, and there's an MOU that you would sign and so forth, and we can get into that too. But if you have cameras, then we could potentially get them integrated so that you could live stream. You don't have to do it though. So if you don't have cameras, we obviously aren't going to be able to stream any information, but you can still sign up on the website, get your information in there, at least have an emergency contact and get the ball rolling so that we do have some communication in case there is any sort of call for service at your location.
Yeah. And you probably get other information from this too. So, for example, if I have a business and I don't have cameras, but I'm also telling you what the layout of my business is and things of that nature, maybe?
Yep, absolutely. So you can also upload floor plans to your business. So that's completely at your discretion. You don't have to. If you'd like to, then you can. And what that does for us is if we do have a call for your business, and if you look through the city, we have businesses of all sizes. There's very small businesses, the size of a residential house, maybe, all the way up to we have factories out in the fort that are absolutely huge, right? And when we have to respond to calls for service to those places, having floor plans would be vital to something that if it's an emergency that's true emergency and we have to get there quick, knowing exactly where you're going to that location is going to be vital because some of these buildings have multiple buildings too, right? So you might, as an employee, you'd be very familiar with where you're going, but as an officer responding to that location, if you've never been or don't have access to that information, it can be a maze. And when seconds count, it's important to go directly where you need to go.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. And we elected to talk about this from the business point of view, but you made a point in the beginning of this discussion that you can do this as a resident too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is designed for everybody. It's probably going to be more common to some of the businesses or schools or maybe even faith-based organizations and so forth. But residents can also do it. Anyone's more than welcome to sign up and participate.
And it is voluntary.
Absolutely. So it's that's the nice thing about it is that we want to build trust and transparency in this, and there's policies that we have in place, and then there's also I talked about it earlier with MOUs, which is an agreement between the organization and then the department that we all have to follow rules and regulations to make this work, right? And it's also important to note that on the back end, anytime that that video is brought up by somebody on the police side or of dispatch, it's logged and tracked. So, in full transparency, anytime that would be brought up by somebody on our side, you as the owner or organization would have access to see who accessed that video as well.
I see. So, it's this pretty common these days with police departments? I presume it is.
It is. So it's growing in popularity for sure. I know Detroit has a program that they've had in place for several years. And they found some success over there. They incorporated it into a lot of gas stations over there that they had high crime rates and they saw a significant reduction in crime over a few years. I want to say it was in the area of 25% reduction.
Oh my.
Um, so pretty good reduction in crime. And as we all know, technology is only getting more and more incorporated in our everyday lives, and that's the same for us here in law enforcement as well.
So, when you say this has had an effect up to 25% reduction in crime, is that simply because a perpetrator might realize that this is a quote protected place, and so they back off.
Yeah, so a lot of those places they can have marketing materials too that even show they're part of the program. And then as the police department, we want the community to know that this program's out there and available as well. And I think that does bring some comfort and safety factor to the public knowing that, hey, if I was on this premise and something does happen, they have the ability to pull up those cameras and see exactly what's going on in real time. And I think that does bring that factor of safety and security, which is what everyone wants, right?
Yeah. So someone's listening to this and they're saying, okay, I want to do that. What do they do?
Yeah, they can go to the website. So Battle Creek mi.motorolasolutions.com/home. That's a little bit long, I know, but that is the where you would go, and that's specific to the Battle Creek Police Department. So you can look on there for more information and materials about the program. Is all right on there. They could also reach out to me personally if they have any questions. Again, Sergeant Corey Champlin, Battle Creek Police Department. I can give you my phone number and email address too to make sure that the community is, like I said, if they have questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah. In fact, we'll put the link to this in the show notes for this episode so you can go there and click right through if you like. Go ahead with the phone number.
Yeah, phone number to my office, 269-966-3466.
All right. And we'll put your email in the show notes as well if folks want to reach out that way and ask questions. Of
Perfect.
course, there are probably some folks saying, I don't know about this. They don't have to do it if that's true, but maybe they might want to just get some info about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the program you can there's no contract, there's no length of term, nothing like that. You can sign up anytime, you can leave anytime as well.
Are there any consistencies that you've seen with those who have signed up? Is it mostly business? Is it mostly residents? What motivates them? I suspect the answer is obvious, but I'm asking anyway. What motivates them to want to do it?
Yeah, so we're literally just starting this program off. So we don't have a bunch of data to really reflect on for that. But I would imagine it's going to be more of the business centric focus at first, starting off. And then maybe as it progresses and gets more broad, that you might see some residential people pick it up as well. We'd love to hear feedback as well.
Yeah, you're probably interested to know too how this affects your calls and your response, and you're going to be analyzing this.
Absolutely. Yeah, we analyze a lot of stuff we do. We have an in-house analyst that does crime trends and amongst a lot of other analyst capacities. And she does a phenomenal job. And this is another thing that we're going to analyze too and see, is it worth it for us and the community? Do we get what we think we're going to get out of it? And we think it's going to do well. We think it is going to be fruitful for the community as a whole and make it a safer place to work and play and live. And that's what we're trying to accomplish.
All right. Battle Creek Police Department rolling out something called Protected Places. As you've just heard from Sergeant Corey Champlin, this is a program, a voluntary program to give police information about your business or residence in advance. So if there were to be a call, perhaps the advanced information can make a difference in the outcome of that call. So have a look on the website. Link is in the show notes. Gather that information about protected places or call Sergeant Champlin if you want at 966-3466 for more info. All right, Sergeant, we'll be interested to know how this progresses.
Absolutely. Thanks, Richard.
Sergeant Corey Champlin on the BC City Connection.